Hey biologists, today we're going to be taking a look at photosynthesis, which includes the light reaction and the Calvin cycle. To understand photosynthesis, you must understand the chloroplast, an organelle inside of a plant cell. Seen here is the outer membrane of the chloroplast. Seen here is a granum. Each one of these discs, or pancakes if you want to call them that, are a thylakoid. Outside of the granum is called the stroma, which is also inside of the chloroplast. Seen here is the equation for photosynthesis. 6 carbon dioxide molecules and 6 water molecules are the reactants that rearrange to form the products of 1 glucose molecule and 6 oxygen molecules. Water is a reactant of photosynthesis. Water passes through the chloroplast membrane through osmosis, which is passive transport. When inside of the chloroplast, the water goes to the thylakoid. When there, the electrons are stripped from the water molecule, thus leaving you with 2 hydrogen ions and 1 oxygen. The oxygen is a waste product of this reaction, and it is removed from the chloroplast. Light energy is also needed for photosynthesis. Light energy enters the chloroplast through stomata, which are holes in the plant's leaves. When inside the chloroplast, the photosensomes on the thylakoid membrane collect the light energy. They then use this energy to energize electrons, which are needed in the electron transport chain. Hydrogen ions are present from the water molecule that was broken down inside of the chloroplast. These hydrogen ions are pumped into the thylakoid through hydrogen pumps. These hydrogen ions have now created a high concentration inside of the thylakoid. This triggers what is called ATP synthase. And ATP synthase creates something called ATP. Also needed to create ATP is something called ADP. ADP is always located in either the stroma and the cytoplasm, and it is used at the end of the light reaction for ATP synthase to form ATP. It is essentially fuel for constructing ATP. NADP is freely floating in the stroma outside of the thylakoid. NADP will enter the thylakoid, combine with a high energy electron, and become NADPH. NADPH is important because it is used back in the stroma in the Calvin cycle for its high energy electrons. Once both ATP and NADPH are present in the stroma, the Calvin cycle can begin. Step 1 of the Calvin cycle is carbon dioxide diffusing into the chloroplast. There, it meets a chemical called RUBP. RUBP is a workbench chemical that grabs onto the CO2 and holds it in place. Then, enzymes come and it takes the high energy electrons away from the NADP and gives it to the carbon compound. Now, NADPH has become NADP once again and is ready to be used to transport electrons from the thylakoid. Next, ATP is used in the Calvin cycle. ATP breaks its high energy bonds and gives it into the carbon compound. The carbon compound is now completely charged with energy. ATP, once it has lost its energy, will become ADP. And it too will be ready to be used again in the thylakoid in the light reaction. Once this carbon compound has gathered this energy, it becomes what we call G3P, or sugar. Here, the G3P breaks off with RUBP because it no longer needs a workbench. Once this Calvin cycle has been repeated twice, 2 G3Ps are generated. These G3Ps can combine to form glucose, which is our other product of photosynthesis. Once this has happened, glucose can leave the chloroplast as it is ready to be used as energy in the plant. To recap, water and carbon dioxide are the reactants for photosynthesis. Water and light energy are needed for the light energy reaction, which takes place in the thylakoid. Oxygen is a waste product of the light reaction, which also happens to be a product of photosynthesis because it leaves the chloroplast. Carbon dioxide is used inside the stroma for the Calvin cycle. The Calvin cycle creates G3Ps, which combine to form glucose, the other product of photosynthesis.